Subaru Legacy. Had to replace the engine. You can hear it. It's knocking pretty good. Brakes were rusted fast. You hear that don't sound too good. 2.5 liter automatic. Check engine light was on, so I like to pull all the codes so that when I'm done with the vehicle, if anything comes back on, I know it has nothing to do with what I did. This is a very nice scanner that I had bought. I'm very satisfied with it for the price. It does a lot of functions. There they are. You see all the codes that are in there. That's all of them. Alright, I removed the air cleaner and its intake tubes and just the little hoses off of that. Disconnected the battery. I had to drain the engine coolant and drain the engine oil before removing the engine. Disconnecting the little plugs and stuff. This has a master plug right here, so a lot of the stuff on the sensors and that you don't have to disconnect them because it'll go with the engine. But the power steering pump and the AC, all that stuff can be laid off to the side. The fuel lines have this thing on it. Pull this off, and you have this little collar. You have to push it in. It depresses the finger so you can get the fuel line off. These fuel lines aren't always the easiest things to disconnect. I fight with them sometimes, so I get them disconnected, and then you can get the tabs in there destroyed, and then the fuel lines won't stay on, or they could possibly leak, blow off. That, loosen that screw there in that clamp, that hose will pull right off. Majority of the time that's how I disconnect the fuel lines on these Subarus. But since I'm replacing the engine and the other engine has all this stuff on it, I'm disconnecting it here. See how this disconnected that. Now the AC bracket's off, so I disconnected one. I'm off to the side. So now that's all disconnected. The oxygen sensors, because I'm going to take the exhaust off, drop that down. I didn't drain the coolant or the engine oil out. Pull the hose off here and down there. And the bell housing bolts are here. Take the bell housing bolts out. I had to take the torque converter bolts out. I could probably leave the actual shafts and all that stuff in there because I'm not pulling the transmission. There's some of the bell bolts. I'm gonna have to take the starter off and some of those other bell bolts. You get the torque converter bolts out after you have the starter off. You go through the starter hole Fucking light's really blinding. Hopefully you can see that. Here's the back side of the engine, the one I'm going to put in, so you can see how it goes together, or looks like. You see how I got the exhaust down? So, I took the engine mount bolts, nuts off. Since I'm under here, I took them off. Starter's off, I have a starter up there. Torque converter bolts right there. Lifted the engine up. Put blocks under it. So I could get at that damn thing. I thought I could access them through the starter, but I was mistaken. And then there's that shield and that shield. I had to take off anyway. I took the engine mounts off. So I can get it separated. When I pulled the engine, the torque converter had pulled out some. You want to make sure that's seated in there all the way, and you don't mess up the seal and when you go to put it back together. If it's not seated, you can end up busting your transmission. So you want to make sure that's all back together the way it's supposed to be. I'm using this wrench to put these bolts back in. The ratcheting wrench. See that there? Works pretty good. A lot of different things, different jobs I use them on. Hard to reach bolts. I got the exhaust back up. Engine mounts back in. Yeah. There you go. Running. That one sounds pretty good. Can't even tell I had it apart.